Okay, we are live. This is interview show number, I believe it maybe 6 or 7. I think I'm 7. Interview show number 7, or you could be 8. I'm not sure. I have to go back. This is a TJRS interview show number 8. I am joined by the one and only Sandee Lovas, host of the popular YouTube show Left of the Box. She is also, shall I say, a former, well, just throwing it out there, former TYT contributor for Rebel HQ, as well as, I think that's about it, right? Left of the Box, former contributor. So, yeah.
Former contributor to Rebel HQ.
Yeah. Which we will get into in this interview, because as it seems that you and I kind of come from the same. Oh, is it still playing Earthbound? I've got to change that. Oh God, thanks, Vixen Bell. Unfortunately, I forgot to change my Twitch handle, my stuff via OBS. Darn it. As that happens, please disregard that. We're not playing Earthbound. We're interviewing Sandee Lovas, again from Left of the Box, and former TYT Rebel HQ contributor. As I say, because we are all, we can say it. We're not bound by anything. Former TYT personalities behind the scenes, in front of the camera, and we will get into that in this interview. First of all, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Same. Is it good there in Canada today?
Well, it's about -12 out with an overcast and blizzard conditions.
Oh, really? It's 79 degrees here in the States, especially in Missouri. It's been raining a lot lately.
I'm joking.
Oh, I'm not good at taking jokes. I mean, who knows?
It's a sunny, summery day, and summery days means it's actually. We've had somewhat of a cool summer so far, like just mid-20s on average, and that's Celsius, not Fahrenheit.
Mm-hmm.
There's been a bunch of days over 30, and that's when it's getting like gross hot.
Yeah, definitely in the States, it's about the same. I mean, one can only take this 80-degree weather so much. You get used to it after a while. I mean, I don't drive, so I have to like either take city transit or walk everywhere or bum rides off people. And some days it's good, but then it's not. And like, as someone who has a disability, I mean, my mobility issues aren't too bad, but there are some limits about getting out in the hot weather. So.
Yeah, well, climate change is making it difficult for everyone when it comes to
for sure.
People with disabilities trying to get out in this weather. Like if it's too hot, a lot of people just get too sick to get outside.
Yeah.
Like if I didn't have AC here, I wouldn't even be functional during heat waves.
Right. Yeah. Same here. That's kind of why I have the AC going now. So if you hear anything in the background, I apologize. Adrian Vixen, hey, how you doing? By the way, in chat says Sandee inspired me to start #TYT Mods Quit, which is a positive thing, as I am part of the TYT Mods Quit.
I did not know that.
Group. And also watched your video supporting us. I think you and Andrea Ravinsky, I think was it so far. I mean, there's several, like Letterhack and a couple others who were supportive of all of us quitting the mod group on YouTube. And again, as I say, as former people that have been associated, that are no longer associated with the network, it's kind of liberating in a way. Yeah. Not really kind of, it is liberating.
It's disappointing. It's sad.
Yeah.
It's a big letdown, really.
Yeah,
I think.
Yes, it is.
Because the network meant so much to me at one point.
Yeah,
Like I'm
same.
sure it did with a lot of people. And to see the way that it's been going lately, and every time I catch a clip of it on YouTube, like granted those are somewhat filtered clips, I'm not seeing their most progressive takes on things, but I can't get over a lot of what Jank and Anna are saying these days.
Right. Yeah, same. It kind of, and this wasn't the first thing I wanted to start off with, but I guess since we're already in conversation, it kind of baffles me, how, 2 years, at least I think 2 years later, 2 years ago, they were all supportive of Black Lives Matter. They were kind of on the left, and like out of nowhere, this like 180 or 360 have you of this like rightward pivot towards social issues and being more sympathetic to the right, especially with Anna, by some of the comments, if not all the comments that she's made on certain podcasts and streams in the last few days and weeks and months have been incredibly concerning to those of us on the left, especially as you say, people who were fans of the network. I mean, for me personally, I was a sophomore in high school when I found them, and I'm talking like 2008 era. So this is when Anna was like, yeah, that it
You're
like
so
when.
young.
Well, I'm 31, but I was a sophomore in high school. I found them, I think, when Anna joined, and looks and sound. That's great, Vixen. That's great. It's better than the Twitch streams that I have to do. But yeah, I mean this like pivot again towards like right wing sympathies has been confusing and and like really, I guess you could just say horrifying. I mean, there's better words to use and say towards this, because I think all of us on the left have, again, I mean, I can't really, I'm trying to put into words what I'm trying to say here. And that's just that, I guess what the bottom line is, it's just really sad that they have really abandoned their mission and their fan base.
Well, it's not just that, it's their refusal to engage, the
Yes.
refusal to learn, the refusal to not realize what they're doing. Like I saw a clip from Jank, and I'm actually thinking of making sure I mark it in case I do a video about it, where Jank was actually saying, I think it was in response to Steven Crowder's ad, that when you're being attacked from the right and the left, sometimes it's not a good thing. Sometimes it's an indication you're doing something very wrong. And I'm like, yeah, you don't say.
Yeah. Yeah.
The way that he is othering other leftists is just, it blows my mind that he's going to throw progressive leftists under a bus to kind of try to appeal more to centrists, when it's like, that's not going to work. It's in your branding. Like he's now wanting to make TYT the progressive network. I'm like, sorry, that doesn't fly with you and Anna at the helm of it.
Yeah. Again, it's just grifting, as Island Cat, Granby Ridge Studio says in the chat. Yeah, it's all about the grift. TYT is trying to increase their market. Yeah, it's all about money and what's better to perfect their brand. And for whatever reason, they've decided to go on this pivot, and it's not good. And
I think they've convinced themselves, they've tricked themselves into that this is the way to go to get what they want. I'm trying to find the right words here. That they've deluded themselves into thinking that they can do this to gain ground, and that they're not being bad, that they're following their principles, when in actuality they're not. but they're trying to convince themselves, no, this is all about a principled stance that we want to, bring attention to the network. We want to do this. And oh yeah, those leftists, they're way out there. They're going crazy, trans people wanting the rights. Oh my God, that's out of that's over the top.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll say I have total respect and admiration for Benny Carollo because of what she did and the stance that she took to walk away from a network like TYT when they were going against her values and her belief system. The fact that Cenk put out that tweet that you just mentioned about, like, she lives in a bubble, she's doing this, she's doing it's horrifying to see fellow like leftists outside of TYT but are like associated with them really defend Anna and like stand by her through all this, and it's either on different podcasts, different YouTube shows, and on Twitter, and the way that just again the bad takes that these folks have, and it's just not good. So,
yeah, I got into some back and forth with some people after Ben Burgess has tweeted out his nonsense recently.
yeah,
And it's
weird.
frustrating because they accuse us of living in a bubble, and meanwhile it's like, well, you're also living in a bubble. Like, I do acknowledge that, yes, I live in a bubble, and right now this bubble is at risk of being popped and destroyed. Like, it's just
Exactly. Yeah.
There's different severities here, and there's still so many people just saying, oh, it's a culture war thing, it doesn't matter, it's like, no, we are literally fighting for our lives. Like, queer folks, trans folks, it's worse in the States. It's not great up in Canada. Like, it is, relatively speaking, it's a lot safer up here, and we're a lot more secure with our rights up here, but it's not safe, as was proven quite recently with the attack at Waterloo. So it's just, for people to constantly just trying to brush it off like it's not a big deal, and it's like, just because it's not a big deal to you doesn't mean it's not a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of discrimination here in the States, obviously, with in the last few years, our mainly right-wing politicians have been passing laws and legislation barring trans men and women to be able to use the restroom, like use the facilities of their choosing based on what gender they identify, what pronouns they identify. It's it's a form of transphobia that, as myself as a minority, as a person with a disability, it's just really really horrifying. Again, really horrifying, just really disgusting, really disgraceful, and I guess it brings us the minorities together, if you get what I'm saying, as far as like people who are transgender, people who are disabled, persons of color, people who are binary, non-binary, can come together and be like, we need to stand together again in unity, and unify against the bigotry, the transphobia, the ableism that that we're seeing around the world, not just in the United States and Canada. I mean, the UK has a horrendous amount of transphobia going on in their country right now, and I mean, look what happened with Breonna Jai. I mean, it's just really, really horrifying, and really, really sickening, and it needs to change. And I want to be optimistic that it can, and as much as I want to, there's a part of me that's only half that, and a lot of it's more pessimistic because of just the way that the laws are enforced right now, and they shouldn't be.
Yeah, like how all of us got here is different. Like, people of color, Black people, they have very different histories than trans folks and queer folks, and people with disabilities, but there are also connecting threads of white supremacy, of the
Hmm.
colonialism, and all that sort of stuff. And our goals are slightly different, but as I say, they're all in the same direction. So we as a whole need to be at least trying to move in that general direction. Because, yeah, like up here in Canada, people with disabilities are treated horribly, like just horribly. The what we get to live off of from the government is well below the poverty line. And yet people with disabilities often have more expenses due to their disability. And then we have medical assistance in dying, which you can now apply for if your sole reason is you just have a disability. And it's easier to apply for that than it is to, get an increase in our our payments so that we can afford rent.
Hmm.
Like we had a bill go through recently where it's like, okay, they are going to increase it, blah blah blah. I'll believe it when I see it. Like I don't even care that the bill has officially gone through. I'll believe it when I see it. Because the government has a way of delaying things, of taking things to court. Like whenever you hear, that's how the news likes to report on things. Like there's been reports like, oh yeah, this Indigenous peoples settlement case went through and the government owes them billions of dollars for this. I think it was for survivors of residential schools and Indigenous children and what's happening to them. But then the government will appeal that and take that to court. But you don't hear that second part. You hear that the Indigenous peoples won in court, but you don't hear about the appeal. You don't hear how the government will just flat out refuse to pay, which then
Hmm.
causes more court. Like the government is more willing to spend more money fighting claims than they are to actually just pay out in a lot of situations.
Wow. Wow. It's really interesting. Yeah, it's different here in the States. I mean, you apply for benefits, you apply for things like public housing and assistance, and there really is I guess what you'd call kind of a pick and choose. If you are someone above the poverty line with a disability, you get in faster. If you're below the poverty line, you kind of have to wait a little while longer, sometimes much longer than usual, and you're put on a list for days, weeks, months, years. I mean, having seen this, in my early 20s, getting out into the world with a person with a disability, trying to live independent with assistance and help from family, obviously. But, you know, I mean, me personally, I waited 2 years to get on public housing, but I can just imagine the people that have had to wait just longer than that. As Adrienne Vixen says in my chat, she's been waiting for years to get
Well,
to get some sort of assistance, and it's just like the government is for anything. Yeah, the government is supposed to help the people, and as someone who lives off the government, it's like they're helping, but they could do more, and
well,
that
it's
applies to the United States government. It could apply to Canadian government in a way to be like internationally.
yeah. What would make me more productive is if I didn't have to worry about how to keep a roof over my head.
Yeah.
I'd become a much more productive. Like my anxiety would go down, things of that sort. If I could afford food and rent, because
Mhm.
this is one of the rare areas where the States actually does better than Canada, uh, proportionally speaking. Like it didn't take me long to get onto disability, but that was a long time ago too. Uh, for my mental health issues. The other place where the States also is doing better right now is with housing and rent. It's actually a lot worse in Canada. Like our housing bubble is so extreme and horrendous. And if something happens to my current rental contract, I'm done. Because market rent for a bachelor, a bedroom, is some areas twice as much as what I'm getting. for an entire month to live off of.
Wow.
Like there's nowhere I can go to get a place to live, which just means that a lot of people then who are living with disabilities have to put up with abusive situations because they can't afford to move. So if they have an abusive landlord, if they have abusive neighbors, an abusive partner, they're stuck because there's no way they can afford a place on their own.
Yeah. Yeah, and like housing here in like for example, like a lot of apartment places, they kind of pick and choose whether or not they want to accept that kind of public housing. Like we have this thing in the States called the equal opportunity. I think it's like equal opportunity housing, and it's a symbol with a little house and a little equal sign, and that generally, I mean, I could be flipping, but it generally could mean like, oh, this place, this apartment accepts public housing for people with disabilities, and that's not always the case. You could just as easily get an apartment, go to the apartment, call the manager, call the landlord, what have you, and just ask them, do you accept public housing? And it's usually a yes or no answer. And it's really, just horrible to see like, okay, if that place doesn't accept the housing, like you said, where are you going to go?
Mhm.
I mean, there's not a lot of options for, folks with disabilities who are trying to get on their own, to go out on their own. I mean, for me personally, it was luck as well. Like I was able to find a place where I live now. Like I've lived in this place, in this apartment for 6 years. It has its ups and downs, but I still at some point do have to fight a corporatist system that's you have these housing companies not based here where I live in Missouri, but based in California, like you said, are raising the rent prices, the utility prices, and it's making it less affordable for folks in the States to live in subsidized housing like this.
Well, here in Canada, well, in Ontario, I don't know about the rest of Canada, and in my area in particular, if you want public housing, you're looking at 15 years minimum.
Wow.
Minimum. Like it is, and then you have to accept the first one that they offer you.
Mm.
If you don't, then you get put back at the bottom of the list.
Oh wow.
So you get no choice. And I am very fortunate that the apartment I'm in right now is rather nice, but that's because I have a rental contract that stretches back over 10 years. And so the rent has been at a fixed increase since then. It's still the majority of my disability payment. Like if I don't make extra money throughout the month, I live in a deficit
Mhm.
between bills and rent.
Yeah.
So there's always that stress. And then there's always that stress of what happens if something happens to this apartment and I can't stay here or I have to move again. And
Mhm.
again, that doesn't help make us productive members of society when
Yeah.
we're constantly under this stress. But then you have so many people just blaming it on the people who with disabilities. And it's like, no one chooses this.
No,
No
not at
one
all.
wants to live like this.
No.
Like I would love to be able to tolerate a 9 to 5 job. Not so much that I would love the job, it's just having the security, the income would be great, but I fall apart in workplaces. My
Yeah.
mentality doesn't handle it.
Exactly. Yeah. I have. I mean, I can relate in a lot of ways because like as as of let's say 2014. So we're talking almost 7 years ago, or 8 years ago maybe. Um, my one and only job was in food service in the restaurant business, and I'm on a fixed income that because I was getting tip money and a paycheck, it was affecting my disability income. And they have these programs here in the States called Ticket to Work that allows folks with disabilities, to actually find, suitable employment, but the options aren't really there, as I've learned. It's like I've looked at these systems and I've used them, and what I've learned is that, you know, there's only so much that a person could actually guide someone like you or I, with disabilities, to like, also I should say Adrian in the chat, to actually go and find suitable work, to to basically just make a living, essentially. And it's just not, it's supposedly supposed to work, but it isn't.
Mhm.
And again, as somebody who's actually seen this, has actually kind of, seen it, even though that was my one and only job, again, like a decade ago, uh, it's it's grueling.
Yeah. Well, the
And
only
I was
reason,
also able to, oh, sorry. Uh, I was also able to see the kind of the behind the scenes work in restaurant work and how workers were treated by the boss. I mean, they were forced to work several long, grueling hours, and which also took a toll on me. And um, that also kind of spurred my leftism, really,
Mhm.
supporting the workers. And anytime somebody goes on strike, I go, I go in solidarity with them. So I guess my brief stint in the workplace kind of spurned where I am now. So, but it's in a positive way, though.
Yeah, the only reason why I was able to hold on to this one job that I had for so long, and it was a good paying job, good environment, was my boss was my best friend
Hmm.
at the time. And he worked with me a lot, and he understood me, and he helped me out with some things. But when the environment of the office changed, like I used to work with him and another person in our department, and we had an office. So I was allowed some level of privacy.
Hmm.
As soon as they took that away from us to make it an empty um, boardroom for the majority of the time and put us on the main floor in cubicles where all the sounds were there, all the noises, all the smells, all the people, and all my privacy was taken away, I started falling apart. Like I could not handle it there. Like I can work, but the type of job I need is so hyper specific. Like put me in a closet and let me work in Excel all day and I'm good. Have
Yeah.
one person at the company that I talk to and I'm fine. And I'm very good at Excel. I had advanced Excel skills. It would take me a while to kind of catch up to where I was because it's been so long.
Hmm.
But the reality is, no company will hire me.
Wow.
Like they want us to get these jobs, but the things that I'm qualified for, no company will hire me. The only reason why I got this job back then was because my boss, referred me because I don't have a college diploma.
Hmm.
So that rules out almost all jobs out there that I can apply for that want my type of skills, especially jobs that you have to apply for online. As soon as they see I don't have a college diploma, I'm immediately filtered out. So the jobs that I'm best qualified for in this capitalistic world that they would want me to do, no company will hire me. So now there's jobs that I can do that doesn't fit their narrative of what they want workers to do. So they don't want you to succeed or pay it at that. Like for me, it's I can do drawing. I'm starting my business. Go to sandeelovas.com to see what you can get.
I
uh,
will link that in the YouTube for the people.
yeah, because I can do lifelike portraits and artwork and beautiful things like that. But that
You
doesn't pay
right.
in the regular way, in the capitalist way that they want. I know
Hmm.
lots of people who have disabilities, but they can knit cloths or socks. They can do all these little things that contribute to a better society in a way, but they're not profitable enough. They're not exploitive enough of the people who are doing it.
Hmm.
So they don't count as real jobs.
It's like you go out there and make something of yourself. You start your own business. You think it's gonna do well, and then it becomes moderately successful, and then you think it's going to make a big ton of money, and you're only going to make like at least probably below the minimum wage, which here in the States it's like $15. I
Yeah,
wish it could
well,
be bigger. I mean, I'm fighting for. I would personally like it to be, like $15 minimum wage pass, so we could even double it and triple it to be
mhm.
more than that. I personally like it to be either $100+ minimum wage, plus meaning, more than 100, so that the that the average working person could actually be able to live, feed their families,
Mhm.
be able to live in an independent life for everyone. I'm talking like the U.S., the U.K., Canada. It would apply. It would be like a national, kind of like in the way that like we're trying to get universal health care, which is also something that we have here, that we're trying to get here in the United States, that I'm also overwhelmingly supportive of. And you know, it's kind of just poke with a stick, to see what happens. But I'm like, again, I'm trying to be optimistic, but there's a lot of only half of that, and
Well,
there is a bit of pessimism
I
because of
launched my
this.
art business. My mom has been my only customer.
Um,
You
well,
know,
if I may say, Sandy, I've because I watched your interview with Sam Cedar, which by the way was really great. I'm just gonna hope that's a compliment. I hope that's a good thing. I did see the drawing that he said that he showed on Majority Report that you did, and I thought it was really really fantastic. So that was just awesome, and you're a great artist. I think you, Letter Hack, and I don't know if you know who J. Andrew World is. Andy is another leftist in this community that does art and drawings, and I think you three are the only ones I know that actually are officially do that kind of work. That freelance artwork, and it's just amazing that y'all do what you do. So
like,
I hope that's a compliment. So
unfortunately, the portraits aren't cheap, but they're very reasonably priced for what they are.
mhm,
So then that runs into a problem. So something I've done on the website, just to plug it a little bit more, is people can make donations towards a portrait. And once the cost of a portrait is covered, I'll put out a call, most likely on Twitter, for
mhm,
people who live with poverty to send pictures that they would want done of their pet or person. And I will randomly pick one to do, and they will get a portrait done at no cost. Because I understand what it's like to want beautiful art or custom made stuff and never be able to afford it. The problem is that a lot of people are tight on budgets these days, so it's a matter
mhm,
of who wants to pay 500 Canadian for artwork.
mhm.
It's hard to get by. I think in American dollars, it's $75, something like that. I don't
Yeah, I
know.
think it's like
Conversion's off.
25 dollars.
Yeah,
I think it's even
yeah.
higher, maybe $30,
No,
35.
I would,
It really
I would be
depends.
totally fine charging Americans $500 American. That would work out in my
That
favor.
would be good,
It's
yeah.
like it's $500, no conversion rate apply.
Um, I mean, if there was a lot, the thing is like a lot of these, if a lot of these websites that they themselves, like if they have like a gift card service, and some of them do, they're just hard to find. If I was able, because how I do when I buy stuff and purchase things, I don't have a debit card or anything like that. So if I was to like buy something off, you know, I admit I buy stuff off Amazon. I go Jeff Bezos' corporate machine, and because by default, I mean, there's not really a lot of places to go. But if they like, if if a lot of these websites, like I said, if they had like gift cards, like I put money on and buy much of your artwork, I'd be displaying it all over the walls on my apartment here, and just being like, look, this gal from Canada is doing amazing artwork, and I'm displaying it proudly. Oh, so um, so you are at 2 years of person. Oh, Adrian Vixen reminded me in chat to say person, so thank you, Adrian. Um, so you are at 2 years, I believe. You just hit your 2-year mark in on YouTube with Left of the Box.
The interview with Sam Cedar was the 2-year anniversary show.
Oh, because like I think in a few weeks I'm at 2 years. I started in August of 2021 on YouTube, so I'm thinking of maybe doing something to commemorate. I might do a panel show or maybe just a Q&A, because I didn't do anything last year because I was in school and like I'm still trying to finish up college so I can do this full time and hopefully make something of it, because as a broadcasting news junkie since I was 13 years old, um, how does I guess the question I'd ask is like how do you feel about your reaching 2 years with Left of the Box?
Uh, well, it's a bit conflicted because the 2-year anniversary was marred with me leaving Rebel HQ.
Oh really? Oh wow.
Yeah, that happened like a couple months earlier. So it's one of the things where sometimes you understand and you realize I'm doing good, and other times you feel like a complete failure.
Mm-hmm.
Because I see other people online who've had much shorter presence than mine, or who do different types of videos, and they have already like tens of thousands of subscribers to their channel, and all they had to do was show up.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I have to fight tooth and nail for every subscriber I get. And it feels like it's never going to grow, that I'm never going to get noticed. But then I was noticed by Rebel HQ, by TYT, though I had to audition for that in a way. I sent in an audition video. And so then that was amazing. But then with that, there's this hope of like, oh my God, I got discovered. I'm on TYT, amazing. And then just to find out that it was more like them throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what stuck. And to come off of that high, just to then come back to my channel where I feel like I'm struggling all the time to get an audience. I look at my top performing videos, like I've only had that one video do decent numbers. That was the one where I was talking about you guys quitting. That's the only one that's really done like over 10K.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even have a video do over 1K in my entire first year.
Wow.
And when I look at all my top performing videos, they're all TYT or Majority Report related.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of gets me in a way, because one of my major goals that I want with my channel is to bring more awareness to Canadian issues and Canadian news. And,
Mm-hmm.
those videos just don't perform well at all.
Right.
Even though the
Well,
last video I posted yesterday is fantastic and people should check it out. If you like a twisted dark humor,
wow. I
I
will definitely. Well, the other thing is it's also the algorithm. I think that YouTube has this way of like, pushing content when it's reactionary and when it is not. So like this video here, because I like in interview shows, like it's probably gonna get up there, but it's not going to be, say, anywhere near like Majority Report or TYT. And like to be honest, I kind of don't want it to be, because I'm fine with like where I'm at in stature, being kind of a smaller creator as opposed to like a Sam Cedar or a Emma Vigland or David Dole, Mike Figueredo, like those people. Those folks are like I would say like veterans now compared to people say like you or myself or Andrea Ravinsky. It's like we are more uh, kind of the lower of the totem pole, like the smaller lefty creators that do want to have a voice. And while it is being heard, the algorithm is kind of either, as I say, pushing us back, so we're not getting a lot of leverage, or sadly, in the case of Andrea, she's getting striked for, basically being just brutally honest and telling the truth, and and she's like losing her fan base, or not necessarily losing her fan base, but like her videos aren't gaining any traction because of the unnecessary strikes, which in my case, and if this gets me in trouble, I do not care, but because I am a huge fan and appreciative of Andrea, I just think it's just really ridiculous that they YouTube are doing this to Andrea, and
Well, as I say, my life would be so much easier if I was a sociopath. Like if I went for whatever made money and all that sort of stuff. Like I can't bring myself to do just clickbait stuff.
yeah,
And like I do check out some Canadian videos or video content creators and stuff to see how they're doing. And some of them are like doing crazy numbers for just reposting Justin Trudeau speaking in the House of Commons.
mm-hmm.
And they're being a right-wing people, so they're trying to imply that something he just said was really horrible, but what he said was just really milk toast. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's this one guy that keeps on popping up in my YouTube feed or suggestions, and it kind of drives me crazy. And he's an American that just reacts to Canadian things, like
Mm-hmm.
Canadian foods or Canadian phrases or places in Canada and stuff. And he gets all of these views, and I'm just like, I'm doing this wrong. I don't know what to do, but I'm doing this all wrong. And I think part of it is just breaking through the noise, because
Yeah.
I like to think I have a good sense of humor.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, my worry is like stepping on people's toes when I do stuff like this. I mean, am I saying the right thing, or am I like, am I gonna like, is this what I'm taught? Is what I'm trying to articulate gonna be like presented the wrong way in the internet world? Because as I won't even call it Twitter anymore because it's been rebranded as X.
Still doing my
Yeah,
part.
it's still, yeah, it still is. But like basically what happens on social media, like, you know, this goes out, I do the edits, I put it out there on Twitter. People like I said, like a good number of people are gonna watch it. Some people are gonna like it, some people are gonna hate it. And like I try to focus more on the positive than the negative. Like so far, like the um the perception that I've gotten is so far positive. I haven't gotten any negative like feedback from anybody. The feedback for me at least is positive, and but there's always that worry that I have in the back is like, am I am I doing things right? Like every day when I prepare for an interview or I ask to interview somebody, it's just like, you know, I'm gonna have to kind of prepare these more sooner because it's like,
Mhm.
who knows what's gonna happen tomorrow when this goes out and somebody watches it afterwards. It gets like at least 20, 30 plus views, and then you know like I say, hardly any comments, but like you always get a feeling like maybe they're just holding it onto them, like holding their feelings onto themselves, so to speak. And um,
I worry about that too. That somehow, for me, the thing that I worry about most is missing accurate facts. That I missed the
mhm,
story, or there was information that I didn't present properly because I didn't have all of it. So trying to do all the research into it because I want to make sure that what I'm presenting is accurate and not even taken out of context. And I worry about that. I worry, and this is my autism a lot of the time. trying to make sure that what I say is coming across the way that I hope it's coming
Yeah.
across.
That's the same with me being autistic.
And I don't know a lot of the times if it is, but then also I super duper worry about when I do make that big mistake, that it will be the end of my channel, because I catastrophize a lot, because in my childhood, a slight mishap meant really dire consequences. And so I'm worried that for some reason people won't let me off the hook for making an honest mistake. Or hell, even a purposeful one. Like I've had it, so I vented for the day and I said some really inappropriate things, but then having like nobody be understanding or nobody willing to give me a chance. Like I worry about that so much, that I'm going to say the wrong thing on accident and people won't care enough to, work with me through it or something of that sort. And that's based on past experiences and things that have happened to me. But at the same time, I don't hold back. So I get a lot of anxiety sometimes with some of the videos that I post, just like all this gut-wrenching anxiety, like, oh my God, I said this thing. And then I'm worried that backlash is going to happen, but then reality humbles me. I'm not popular enough for anyone to notice.
Yeah, a lot
Which
of
gives
it's
you some freedom. It gives you.
yeah, it does. I mean, being a smaller creator, there's a lot of more leeway because and there is, like you say, like there's a little bit more forgiving there because we're not as well known as I say, like the Sam Cedars of the world or the David Doles or whatnot. Like, not to say that there's anything wrong with that; those are great people. Um, and as Adrian Vixen says in the chat, you do amazing work, Sandee. I couldn't agree more. You do you do a lot of great stuff, and I was actually psyched that you finally followed me on Twitter, and I think on Blue Sky as well, if I'm not mistaken. So I think most of people that are fellow lefty creators, like the smaller ones, we're all followers now, so that's like a great community. That's the other thing is the community aspect of like supporting each other, having each other's backs, which I can say is missing from the left. I mean, the other thing is we just recently celebrated. I don't want to say celebrated. We marked 3 years since Michael Brooks, the late great Michael Jamal Brooks, passed away. Because I see his book in your background there. I have the same book. It's in my personal library. And I feel honestly that, and I kind of want to get your take on this before I ask you the next question, was how did Left of the Box begin? That was like the first question I wanted to ask before we went into we kind of diverted from my my original question, which was like, do you think, Sandee, that that's missing from the left, meaning the camaraderie and the unity and, like, as I say, having each other's backs? I mean, because even if it's there, like a lot of it's kind of in pieces, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That was a lot to take in.
Yeah, we struggle for different reasons on the left to form unity. And that's because a lot of people on the left are in a lot of fear right now about what's happening, a lot of pain, a lot of trauma. And so it's hard to let some things go. And then the things that people tend to focus on versus the things that need to be focused on. Because I'm the type of person too, I don't like purity testing, which people then get confused because it's like I'm railing against TYT and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, the problem is everything's getting labeled as leftist infighting, as purity testing. And so then people aren't stepping back to see if there's any difference, like to see if there's merit behind what's being said. And sometimes I feel like some people are just so traumatized about certain things that they can't let it any leeway. Like I remember there was a big online blow up over a hashtag, over who's allowed to use it. And to me, I'm just like, that's not helping anyone. And that's not getting to the root of the problem. Like for me, it's always about getting to the root of the problem and working from it there. And when we just bicker over these surface level things, we're never dealing with the cause of it. That's why, like one time somebody said, it doesn't matter why Anna is the way she is. All that matters is what she's doing. And it's like, yes, the house is on fire. It matters. We need to put it out. But if we don't figure out the source of that fire, it will never go out. We might distinguish it for a bit, but then it will come back. We need to get to the source of what's causing it. And not enough people do that. And it's fair too, because a lot of people are dealing with their own trauma and their own fear. So there's no easy way to do this. We need different people doing different things, looking at different aspects. We need people working on putting out the fire while we have people working to find the source of it and dealing with it there. And that goes for all issues. And right now, there is a sense of dread and terror that's happening because it's very well warranted. So people are on thin fuses. And, you know, we act like we have limited resources to fight these. And I think a lot of that's in our heads. And that's meant, and it was designed to be in our heads. Like the way that the culture pushes it, the way that the right pushes it and stuff. We feel like we're fighting with limited resources. And so that, you know, well, if this cause gets all this attention, then my cause will be put on the back burner and go away. When that's not the case. We have the resources to go at all of these at the same time. We need people to realize that it's not an either or. It's not we fight this battle or this one. We can do both. We have the ability to do both. And it gets frustrating when I see the way some people fight online and then other people just not letting go. Like there's certain people that will still promote TYT and, you know, support Anna and stuff. People I like.
Mm-hmm.
And I've made the choice not to hold it against them.
Yeah, I mean, same.
Because
I mean,
what good does that do? Because that person,
right.
You know, they like TYT for their own reasons. And like this gets into a lot more deeper metaphors that eventually I'll probably end up making a video on. Because you can hold them accountable to some extent. Like, please call out the person or at least acknowledge when they're doing something bad. But I don't even know how this connects, but it does. It's possible to love an abuser. Like a child can love an abusive parent, a spouse can love an abusive spouse. Or I can love somebody who's abusive to somebody else. And it's complicated how that works. And I can still hold that person accountable, though, for the harm they're causing other people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I do love my country, but damn straight I'm holding it accountable for everything it does.
Right.
And my country has done good for me. I'm alive today because of what my country has provided me. And I mean that quite literally. But it doesn't mean I'm going to overlook all the bad it's doing. Like I can't say I'm proud to be Canadian. I am very grateful to be Canadian because of my privilege within this system. And we have to pick our battles, you know. What does being mad at one person who still supports people that we see as being toxic, does that accomplish anything? Versus just focusing our attention on the toxic people and trying to make them realize, grow. If they can't do that, get to the source of the problem.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I get the, Island Cat says in my chat, countries like people need to grow. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we all need to grow and learn from. I can't click on it. Oh, yeah. Island Cat says, yeah, countries like people need to grow and learn. That is, I think that's very important. And like like you said, if somebody that is within our online community has still supporting TYT despite the terrible positions that they've taken over the last year. um, I mean, they have their reasons, and we don't necessarily agree with it, but it is what it is, and you can talk to them and just reason with them and say, hey, this is why we do not like Jank and Anna's positions on not just trans people, but the homeless and the crime issue. And my worry is, what are they going to do next? Are they going to, is Anna going to go after people with disabilities? Is she going to say something that's perceived to be ableist? I mean,
I have real
there's
anxiety about what those two will do. Like,
yeah,
I have real anxiety because it has such a huge impact. But yeah,
and
like I can't. Sorry. I
no,
can't
it's
get
fine.
mad at these people sometimes because, again, TYT feel the need in them. And if we just attack them and say, you need to wake up, you need to do this, it's going to do the exact opposite. And it is more a matter of, just putting the information out there, gently nudging them. Because nobody likes being wrong. Nobody
Yeah,
likes misjudging characters. And if we just attack people who are generally good people, it doesn't help bring them to our side.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
sometimes it's a long process. It takes a long time. And at some point I hope that something snaps and they wake up and realize, no, you guys are right. I finally see it for whatever reason. It sucks that
Yeah,
it took them that long, but it's great that it happened.
yeah. I mean, with me and with myself, like I will say that I was only part of the TYT mod group for 3 months. I think I I explained it well in the letter hack panel interview that we all did, myself and Adrian and the mods and the other mods uh, that all quit. There was I think 11 of us that quit, and there was basically a collective decision that we all made in our private group about what to do. And for me personally, I just sat and listened, and the more I listened, the more I agreed. The more I was like, it's better this way, that we all leave and we do it now, versus if we wait until the weekend passes and Monday dawns and there's like the news cycle moves on. And in my view, and I'm sure Adrian Vixen in my chat will agree, is that um, this really took on, for us, positively. I mean, as we talked privately, that it takes a lot of guts to walk away
Mhm.
from something like that. Like I said, I had known about TYT since I was a sophomore in high school. Like, because of them, I found all these other left wing shows that either were associated with them or had been on their Friday Power panel and whatnot. And it's just weird to see, again, TYT, as I keep saying, I don't need to sound like a broken record, but like pivot into this right wing scenario. And like you said, like you get why people are still fans, but it's like there are reasons why those of us on the left are being with common sense here,
Mhm.
because we do not agree with Jake and Anna's, not just them, like the whole network, essentially. Um, they've just decided that, hey, we're going to keep our jobs. It's better. It's better for us to have our nice little studio than, say, supporting someone like yourself or someone like Benny. In my view, I believe, and I'm sure that you and others would agree with me on this, is that Benny was thrown kind of to the curb in a very not appropriate. Yes, Adrian Bixon, thank you for reminding me. Paying their mods. Um, she was thrown to the curb unnecessarily so, and Jenks' tweet about it by basically distorting everything
Mm-hmm.
was just totally unnecessary, trying to make them look good, and it backfired.
Yeah.
And that's really made me, as a minority, as a person with a disability, just who reaches out to other minorities,
Mm-hmm.
just totally disgusted. Like, I feel for Benny, I feel for you, I feel for Adrian in the chat, I feel for all the mods, my fellow moderators who quit. I feel for Vidingale, who is a trans moderator, who's now like, who I just did an interview with as well. She's like, or they're the best. They're like one of my good friends now.
Yeah.
Like, they're awesome.
Yeah.
And it's
I do
just
just sorry.
go ahead.
I do just want to make clear, though, responding to something I saw in the chat. I am all for encouraging everyone to get to different networks than TYT.
Yeah,
It's
I think
basically
it was
what I'm
good.
saying is there's certain people I won't personally attack for still liking TYT, but I definitely encourage people to get to new content. There are people online that I do push back against and be like, well, here are some clips, or here's this article, like people saying, well, that Jesse Singal guy doesn't seem all that bad. Well, here's the GLAD article that will tell you otherwise. It's, again, choosing your battles. Some people, I don't know if it's just me, but there's a couple people I can tell they're just not ready to hear it. They're not ready to move on. Attacking them personally isn't going to help. But then there's lots of other people who, might be like, okay, well, I guess you got a point. But every chance I get, like in my videos that I've done, I've very blatantly said people need to stop watching.
Yeah.
And I've gotten into a back and forth on Twitter about like, oh, you're trying to cancel Anna. And it's like, no. We are saying don't watch the network. But then they're like, well, that's in essence canceling her. And it's like, you're not canceling her by doing that. And really, what else can we do? They refuse to listen. They refuse to grow. They will be more than happy to have conversations with people on the right, but people on the left, oh gosh, no, we're too reactionary. What else have they left us that we can possibly do to kind of get our point across? But also, like, it's too frustrating and upsetting watching TYT.
Yeah, I haven't watched a single episode of any TYT show since we all left. The only time I hear about it is through certain groups that I'm a part of that kind of say, hey, this thing happened, that thing, and I'll check it out. But other than that, like, I don't really, I kind of like stayed away from, not really kind of, I have stayed away from TYT in the last, as it has been 4 weeks since this happened, all this stuff happened. But yeah, so I kind of wanted to get back to we're going on tangents here, which is actually making for a good show. It's actually making me deviate from my own script, which I prefer. But I guess the other question, like, how, like, I guess, like, what prompted you to start your YouTube show, Left of the Box?
Short answer, Michael Brooks.
Michael Brooks, yeah. That's good.
That's
That's
a very
same.
long answer. I have like a video that's over an hour or an hour long explaining it the one time, but yeah, it all started way back when, before I was watching a lot of political stuff online.
Hmm.
Um, the election, your election of Donald Trump, really
Yeah.
affected me. Like, it shouldn't. I'm in Canada, but I understood that him getting into office in the States will have huge impacts here in Canada.
Mhm.
Like, the reason why Canadians pay attention a lot to American politics is that a lot of us recognize the impacts that American politics can have on us. You guys still need to wake up to the fact that Canadian politics have an influence on you guys, because so many
Yeah,
people it's like, oh, it's
that is
just
true.
Canada,
That is
you
true.
know, that's located in Santa Sac, as Letterhack was wondering where Canada was located earlier. Um,
Where are you from in Canada?
Ontario.
Ontario? I was thinking Toronto. Is it the same?
It's Ontario, Toronto, it's the same thing.
Okay.
That's a joke.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I am a bit of a Canada-phile when it comes to like pop culture, which is what I wanted to talk to you about. Like, I have to confess something real quick. I am a huge Degrassi fan, and if that's okay to say, like, I know some people have their different opinions on that
I've
show,
never
but it's
watched it. I haven't seen an episode, so like it all you want. I don't care.
really, you've never seen an episode of Degrassi, not not junior high, high school
Maybe
down.
when I was a kid, but it wasn't my vibe.
Oh, okay, okay. Um, I kind of want to get that out because I just, when I meet someone that's like, like
Mhm.
I'm hoping to interview David Dole, and I kind of want to ask him that same question as well, as far as like Canadian, like pop
Like I
culture.
told Letterhack, it's in Santa Sac. That's where
Oh,
Canada is.
okay.
That's why you
So,
can't find it on a map.
okay, hold on. I think I clicked that by mistake. What is it? Okay, okay. I clicked this button. Okay, there we go. It's just my computer goes into save mode, and I have to like move the
Yeah.
mouse to keep it going. So, I mean, I was also going to ask you about, because I'm a big, like, I feel like can't like this is, um, uh, like I love Canadian rock bands. Like I'm a big music person, and I will confess that I am a huge fan of Our Lady Peace and Main Maida. I mean, I don't know what your take on him is, the singer Main Maida, but
I listen to dance music, Eurodance, EDM music. So
okay. Like, I had
I
a
think
whole question. I think I
there
like.
was some Our Lady Peace music I listened to when they were going through like a grunge phase or something like that when I was younger.
Yeah. Um, I remember of their music. I remember the song from the album Gravity, which is the song Somewhere Out There. That was like the big one in the States. But I love the albums Navid, uh, what's it? Happiness is not a fish you can catch. Clumsy, obviously, the one that broke them in the States. There's obviously Spiritual Machines. There's the album I mentioned, Gravity. Uh, there's a whole bunch, you know.
Yeah. Well, I should know it better because in Canada, by law, I'm not joking, broadcasters have to play a certain amount of Canadian content.
Hmm.
So radio stations have to play a certain amount of Canadian-made music. So I should know this better, but I wasn't really into rock. And I think when I was in high school, they had some good songs out that my friends were more into than me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also a fan of. I mean, because this song was on the radio in the United States like literally every day in the '90s, and it's the song "One Week" by the Bare Naked Ladies, and
Mm.
I became a
I
huge fan
do
of
know
that.
them.
Yeah. Have you seen them in concert?
No.
No. Oh, okay. Yeah, I actually like them. I confess. I mean, like I say, Canada, I will say, has, in my view, has better choices for music than the United States. I mean, I'm probably biased, but and
It's
I'll probably
very, yeah, the music up here is very eclectic, I guess you could say.
yeah.
There's a wide range. Like for EDM music, you have Dead Mouse, who's
Mhm.
Canadian. So just putting that out there. Um, we have, like I said, it's kind of like a mixed relationship with our music and media in general, because like I said, a certain amount has to be Canadian that plays on the radio stations.
Mhm.
And so we have our annual music awards called the Junos.
Yeah.
And the way that you win a Juno is by showing up. And I'm not really joking, because there are some Canadian artists who have snubbed the Junos for
Mhm.
being cliquish and being superficial. And then, even though they are very much deserving of an award, they don't get one
Mhm.
because they have to literally show up in order for the Junos to recognize them. But if you snub the Junos in any way, then they won't. And the reason why we have a love-hate relationship with it is like, yeah, sure, we do get some good Canadian music out there, but then other music that nobody likes is forced down our throats.
Yeah.
Like that's the problem with CanCon, Canadian content, because it's not just music, it's programming, like TV programming and stuff like that. And so it's the government insisting this is Canadian culture, this is good
Yeah.
Canadian programming, when it's like no Canadian is watching that by choice.
Right. Right.
Like
So it's like
nobody finds this good.
so if like anything like say just putting it out there like the CBC, that's like required. Is that like paid from grants from the Canadian government, so to speak, or is that
Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, yeah, it's
wow?
government funded.
Wow.
But it's not just the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, it's part of our CRTC, communications, telecommunications, radio, all that sort of stuff. That there is actual requirements for a certain amount of Canadian content in all broadcasters into Canada,
Wow.
which is why we don't get a lot of some American channels and stuff like that, unless you have cheat codes and things of that sort.
Yeah.
And then it got a whole lot
VPN.
worse with a couple bills that just got passed that nobody was paying attention to, and I was screaming about, but my channel's not getting enough attention with Bill C-11 that got passed, and Bill C-18 is not a good bill either. And these ones are, I'm very conflicted with talking out against these, because conservatives are also so hard against them that I'm like, I must be doing something wrong. Like, we
Conservatives
can't
in
be in
Canada.
agreement this much.
So it's conservatives in Canada that are
They're also very much against Bill C-11. I
so
think
what
part of that is just due to who the current government is. Like, if the current
yeah.
government was conservative and the conservative leaders were saying, oh yeah, Bill C-11 is good, then they'd be like, oh yeah, Bill C-11 is good. But since it's a liberal government in saying Bill C-11 is good, then they're like, oh no, it's a suppression of free speech and all that sort of stuff. Basically, it's trying to bring broadcasting telecommunication regulations onto the internet.
Mm-hmm. They're trying to go digital, basically. Yeah.
It's not even going digital. It's trying to suddenly apply all these things that were meant for broadcast radio and TV to somehow apply to online content creating.
Mm-hmm.
And that things that qualify for CanCon will get automatically plugged more and stuff of that sort. I will never qualify for CanCon, even though I'm very Canadian. And I even say French words at times, but since I'm also a social commie, there's no way that they would consider mine to be it's them trying to maple wash Canada to tell us what Canadian culture is.
Right.
So it's frustrating. And then, a channel like mine can get pushed down in the algorithms even more to make room for what they qualify as Canadian content.
Yeah, and again, the big tech, obviously, that runs amok in the U.S. and Canada does play a big part. I mean, smaller channels don't really get a lot of recognition by those tech companies or by the big tech. It's you've got YouTube, which is run, I think, by Google, which is owned by Alphabet Inc. Facebook, which is now, I think, Meta. It's like there's not going to be a lot of recognition by them with YouTube, with channels like ours that, we're just starting out. We're like we said in the beginning, we're making some leeway, but it's not enough for us to kind of actually do this full time. We have to kind of do things on the side. Um, but like a quick side note on the Canadian broadcasting, I will say personally, we used to get. I remember like growing up in the '90s, I used to get a lot of like shows that were based in Canada, like in syndication in the United States. Like a lot of those like Saturday morning cartoons that I used to watch on like ABC, NBC, CBS in the United States. I found out later, like a decade, that they were all produced by I think companies like Nelvana. I think that's how you say their name. That is, I think, produced partially in Canada or fully in Canada. I don't know. Like I found all this stuff out like later on. Like anybody who's of the age of like a millennial who is like watch these shows in the '90s would probably hopefully know what I'm talking about. But yeah, that was just a side note to the Canadian this Canadian broadcasting that we were just talking about. Yeah, the other thing was like your take of your current Canadian politics. Like, so I don't know how long it's been like since you know. I mean, I'm just gonna say his name. Forgive me. I don't know how long it's been since Trudeau's been in office, but I was gonna kind of ask you about what you think.
Which Trudeau are you talking about?
Oh, the current one, the PM that now separated from his wife, apparently. Yeah, I forget. There were two Trudeaus. There's Justin, and I think it was his PM, yeah, Prime Minister, and his. Oh, hold on. Oh, come on. What's going on? No, I do not want to leave. Sorry, my computer's doing some weird stuff. Every time it goes kind of into power save mode, so it looks like I'm being I'm not paying attention. I promise you I am. See, now I lost my train. Okay, Trudeau. I would have to ask, good or bad, most probably on the bad side. Um, how do you rate Trudeau? Just like in one simple phrase. Couldn't be said enough. Couldn't be said better enough. I mean, if I would have to honestly tell you that they put him when he became PM, they put him on the cover of the American Rolling Stone, which I have back when I was reading Rolling Stone. Like I don't even read that much anymore, but yeah, they put him on the cover and like propped him up so much, and it's just like the things that he's doing.
Yeah, it's just all political dynasty stuff. Like when it comes to the residential schools and stuff, how much accountability can we have from this government when his father was in charge while there was still residential schools functioning? It's just. So, do you want me to talk more about this after I finish my story about how I get started? Just trying to help you get back on track.
Sorry, yeah, we kind of deflected there.
No, it's okay. It's just I've told the story before. I don't know how many people have heard it though.
You could probably tell after you got started with your channel.
Okay. I'll make sure to weave it back in. So yeah, election in the States happened. I was really upset. And that's when I started watching TYT. And I guess at some point it just kind of motivated me. It's like, I want to help make a difference, but how do I make a difference? And eventually, through various different things, it led to me wanting to run for politics. And so I got into a contested nomination, which would be something sort of like a primary, but not really. uh, for the NDP in my area, and then that was devastating. My
You
experience in
lost.
that. It wasn't just that I lost, it was how I lost. And there were other things that went on behind the scenes that just crushed me in a way I didn't think was possible.
Mhm.
That I've never gone into detail before. I might make a video about it at some point, but it was just all these things that happened, and it just devastated me in such a way I didn't even think was possible to recover. Like I completely lost a part of myself. And I was just in a very dark place for a long time, kind of waiting for the next low.
Mhm.
And some people might know what I mean by that. And I was just waiting to check out. I had nothing going for me. I was just waiting for my mood to get bad enough that I would do it. And Michael was able to break through that noise and got me to ask the very simple question, why am I still here? Because I have tried to not be here before. And when I just took a moment to think about it, the answer is because despite how much I hated my life, I really like who I am. And who I am is a compassionate fighter who doesn't hold back, who has empathy, who has a sense of humor. Like all these things that I lost during that campaign when that happened. All these things of me of not giving up. And so then who would I be really if I gave up on that part of myself? So it was like, okay, so this part of me just kind of got reignited, but how do I, like, what do I do about it now? Because I tried politics, it's failed. Like, how do I make that difference?
Mhm.
Well, why not the same way as Michael? And that is how Left of the Box started. Unfortunately, that was right at his passing, so I never got a chance to say anything to him about it. I
Yeah.
wasn't even on Twitter at the time.
Yeah, I was the same way. This channel, this show started after actually I conceived of it. I spent a year conceiving of it in 2020, soon after he passed away, and then I started, as I say, in 2021. And I did a small, turned out like a 56-minute video, 56 to 58-minute video explaining what the show was going to be. Wasn't the best thing in the world, but uh, that's when I felt like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to add my voice to the left, and I want to help, respect and honor his memory by, being in the fight with which he started. And I feel like I'm doing some good. There have been some bumps in the road, obviously, but I'm getting there. So,
So that's the story in the nutshell. So back to Justin Trudeau, he sucks.
okay, that's two
He
words.
sucks.
He sucks.
He's very good at performative stuff, but behind the scenes, he's a corporatist person. Like the thing is that people are like, oh, you have a multi-party system in Canada. No, we don't. We do not. The Conservative and Liberals are the same party. It's just the Liberals tend to be more socially progressive in appearance. Like Justin Trudeau will have pictures of him kneeling at the grave of Indigenous child and stuff of that sort. Yet he's the one that's taking them to court to fight them getting settlements. His policies betray him. And when you look at the voting histories of Conservatives and Liberals, when it comes to economics, when it comes to dismantling our healthcare, they vote in line with each other. Like during the pandemic, they voted together to not have pharmacare for all. The NDP was trying to push it. The NDP has basically become what the Liberals claim to be. So the NDP isn't even progressive.
the new,
anymore.
what is it called? The new Democratic Party.
Yeah.
So
They're
it's like, oh, go ahead.
yeah, they're not like, yes, they are of the left, but they're basically just left of center.
Yeah. So they're like centrist, like in a sense from America, like here in the States we have like Democrat, Republican, moderate, centrist. They're kind of that mindset. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah. Yeah, so like the liberals would be your Democrats, the corporatist Democrats, the NDP would be like the squad, and then conservatives and Republicans, it's the same.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have a lot of conservatives here that espouse Republican views, who admire them and
Yeah.
say they want to be like them. Like I will always try to get the liberals in if that's the choice, other than the conservatives, because the conservatives are just horrid.
Horrible. Yeah. I.e.
The liberals are bad, conservatives are horrid, and so it's the minimizing damage or something of that sort every election.
Yeah.
It's not about voting for who you want, it's about voting for the less worst option. And I will still then tell people vote NDP, even though what they did to me and their non-progressive views on a lot of things, because they've just been, oh, well, now we're not going to fight for dental care for all. We're going to fight for, means tested dental care for all and all this sort of stuff. Like they've lost a lot of their more progressive origins.
Yeah.
And so the dismantling is happening slower under the liberals, but it's still happening and it's still being allowed to get away with. Like healthcare is confusing up here because it's up to the provinces to administer it. However, the federal government does have some control over it, but it's up to the provinces to dish out the funding and stuff. And the provinces, conservative-led provinces, are doing a very good job of starting to privatize and dismantle our healthcare, and the federal government is doing nothing to stop it. When they have the ability to do stuff, and they're choosing not to, because it's all about the corporations. It's all about the corporations in the end for both conservatives and liberals. The oil companies, the pharmaceutical companies, the grocery food companies, Gale and Weston and all that sort of stuff. The housing market, the housing market is out of control because of what liberals and conservatives have been doing for decades.
Wow. Yeah, I mean it's the same way here in the States. We have a lot of corporations backing politicians, political candidates, think tank groups. Most of them, if not all of them, lean fundamentally conservative. Even if they were to back a certain Democrat, that is like what you'd probably say like a socially liberal person, but fundamentally and economically they're conservative. Mm-hmm. That person would be backed by the corporate leaning company, and the more money you give in to their campaigns, the more influence they have. The more influence they have, the more they'll get recognition. The more recognition they have, they're likely to win their election. Not just with voter support anymore. There's a lot of other things that just go on within the business world in the United States, and I'm sure in Canada as well.
Well, the right wing works on both sides of the border with each other. So the conservative government and right wing government, they're all working together. When we have rallies and protests up here that are right wing, we have funders from the States and we send people down to the States for theirs. They're working together.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating because even like the NDP, the supposed progressive party, they have landlords. Like some of their MPs are landlords.
Yeah.
And it's like really our best chance is to get the NDP back on track, to get a more progressive leader. Like Jagmeet Singh, I had a lot of hope for him, and he's turned out to be a very big disappointment. There is somebody that I'm suspecting is angling to run for the next leadership,
Mhm.
and I want him to run, and I will help him to win. I have hope that he would actually get the NDP back on track. Because the thing
So,
is that the NDP, overall, they have an establishment within that is dragging the party down, but there's still individuals within the NDP, both provincially and federally, that
right.
are good people that somehow slipped under the radar and got into the party. Because here you have to qualify. Like, they have to vet you. You can't just run to be an NDP candidate. They have to allow you to run. And so that's why I know I will never be an NDP candidate again, is they will not let me run to be the NDP.
Mhm.
Which, yeah, it's a whole other story.
Yeah.
And if they don't like who the riding associations come up with, they will literally pick somebody else and just put them in.
Yeah.
Even though they don't have to go through the same vetting process and things of that sort. They don't have to be voted in as the candidate.
Mhm.
And so the NDP is just complete falling apart crap show. That is hugely disappointing. But there are still individuals. I have a video about one person who recently got in, Jama. She's
Mhm.
amazing. People should go check out my video about her.
I
She's
will. I will link. I will try to link as much of these videos
yeah.
in the description
She's
in
a
the edit as possible.
person with a disability. I can't. I have a hard time remembering specifics, but she uses a wheelchair for mobility, and she's also a person of color
Mhm.
and young. She's still in her 20s. Amazing speaker. And she's been at protests for housing encampments and stuff. Just absolutely amazing person. So I think she somehow slipped in under the radar because she's an academic, like she went through university, whereas the NDP is very snobbish about that sort of thing. They like their academics. They like people who have their university educations and stuff of that sort. Somebody like me, not a chance.
Mhm.
Um, so I think she was able to slip in the radar that way because a lot of the things that she has been saying since she's been into office has rubbed them the wrong way. Palestinians deserve rights. So there are some NDP people who kind of got in under the radar. So it's a matter of when the next leadership comes up, will they allow them to run? Because they will find reasons as to why they don't qualify to run
Mhm.
if they really want. But the person I'm
Yeah.
kind of hoping for is Matthew Green.
Right.
He's the current MP for Hamilton Center.
So I guess this leads me into the next question. Do you see leftist politics like that in Canada getting more progressive with, like you say, the under the radar groups and politicians? Like, do you see that happening kind of in a way that I guess you could say Bernie Sanders in the States? I mean, you know, basically in like 2015 and 20, like, especially like in 2015, 2016, when he was like an outsider within the political establishment in the States and like rose up to be where he is now. Do you see something like that happening in the States? Do you see something like that happening, as you say, with like the under the radar NDP candidates getting in there and like espousing, I guess would be a fair word to
Yeah,
use, progressive politics in Canada?
it's a matter if they can break through the media blockade.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have the same problems with our media covering certain candidates as you guys do with yours.
Yeah.
So the more left-leaning ones will get all the negative attention. Like, even though the NDP is hardly a threat, the media will be like, oh, the dangers of the socialist NDP and all that sort of stuff. And, give like, oh, well, this conservative who is anti-choice deserves to be like all this sort of stuff. And, we have all the same problems with, well, it's true that these conservatives are right-wingers and supported by right-wingers and have fundings. And here's a picture with them with right-wingers with slogans and stuff. Like, I still can't get over how a couple elections ago, the campaign slogan for the Conservatives was "Secure the Future."
Wow.
Just like you just the media's like, oh, that sounds like a dog whistle.
That's
I still can't get over that.
Yeah, it's. I guess in a way, it's similar to the "Make America Great Again" for the like for the
Oh, we
Republic, like
have
for
MAGA
Trump.
heads up here. There are people who want Trump as prime minister or president or dictator of Canada.
Oh wow, that's really.
Yeah, at every right-wing rally, you see MAGA hats. You see F. Trudeau flags are very popular. But then you also see American flags or Trump for president. Like they want him in president again, hoping that maybe he'll adopt Canada or something. I don't know.
Wow. Yeah, that is so. That's just so interesting. It's like the Trump the Trumpian movement. I'm going to say it that way. Forgive me if it for me. Forgive me if I'm having trouble articulating what I'm trying to say. But yeah, that movement is just like just sprawling all over internationally. I mean, look what happened in Brazil with Jair Bolsonaro. Yeah, Jair Bolsonaro, as I say his last name correctly. The right wing, fascism that went down in Brazil, and it's like now we have Lula da Silva again, and like
Well,
he's our
yeah, we don't. And this is why I'm always pushing for more solidarity across the border with our politics, because again, Americans don't understand how much Canadian politics affect you guys too, because Justin Trudeau didn't exactly not like Trump. Because when it came to pipelines, oil pipelines, they were on the same page.
yeah.
When it comes to foreign intervention and all that sort of stuff, like every war that you're funding overseas, so are we. We're sending out weapons. We're doing all the same things.
Yeah.
We send tons of money to Israel. Like it's just we do all the same things. And then what ends up is you get people like Jordan Peterson, who has a major impact on American culture as well. And well, he came from Canada. He came from our culture.
He's helping people with their masculinity. I can't do a really good Jordan Peterson. Although Michael Brooks did a really good Peterson impression, which I miss dearly. But anyway, sorry.
There is an ultimate impression that I wish somebody could pull off, and that is a caricature of the left of Michael Brooks.
Mm-hmm.
So Michael Brooks who's left the left. I wish somebody could pull off that character.
Yeah.
That would be so fun.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I mean, it's again, it's been 3 years since he passed on, and it's I mean, we miss him every day. I'll be honest. It's hard to have a left without his voice, because I feel like his voice is needed. I think now more than ever. And
yeah, I'm still shocked at how much his death impacted me. Like, I've never met him. I never had any contact with him. But one thing that kind of, I don't know, it was very weird, was my uncle passed away exactly 2 weeks after him, and I was still feeling his death more. But I barely knew my uncle, if that makes any sense. But I've at least met my uncle. He lived in a different part of the country for my entire life, so it's not like I knew him. But and I think Sam has touched on it before. It's not just that he's gone; it's the potential of everything that he was about to do is also gone.
Yeah, I mean, he was 30. He was only 36 when he passed away. I mean, he was really at the start of his career, and Island Cat says in my chat, Michael sung to your heart. Yes, he did. I have to double click. Yeah, Michael sung to. Yes, he did. Very much so. Make sure. I always I double click, I single click. There we go. And the comment, I don't know.
I sung in my last video. People should go check out.
Yeah, I mean, I can sing, but I'd rather not do it publicly.
No, what I did was absolutely, completely, and entirely inappropriate, and I will do it again.
Oh, you're
What I
braver than
sang
my own.
was horrid. I hope I never get pulled over by the cops.
Oh, we will have to discuss it then. So the next question I was going to ask was how you got involved with Rebel HQ on TYT, and like, what was it like? Was there any drama? Why'd you leave? But like, I feel like you kind of already covered that in here, and also in your previous videos, like on how like.
Yeah, I've touched on it. I haven't gone into all details yet, and I'm still, with everything else that's come out recently, I'm still trying to figure out what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Because the short answer is my videos weren't performing. But then there's other things now that I'm kind of wondering about.
Yeah, I think we all are. Like, again, especially like both of us as a former contributor to the network and as a former mod behind the scenes, it's, there's just a lot of stuff, that we'll never know about the network.
There's a lot of things, like I had a lot of frustrations and concerns while working there about certain things.
Yeah.
But it's conflicted because everyone treated me very well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the way that I got the job was simple enough. I think it was in November or something. They said that they're looking for YouTube contributors for Rebel HQ. And I'm like, oh, I'm a YouTube contributor. So I made a video, and because they said, like, they had it on their webpage where you could send in the resume and stuff of that sort.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, screw the resume. Who cares about my supply chain abilities? Here's a video. I did end up sending them a resume as well, because I'm like, oh, maybe I actually should have sent an actual resume. But the job that I had previously, because I quit my job to make that run in politics, although I was going to quit the job anyway because the environment there changed. And the new management that they got in the company, I knew were there to purposely sink the company, of which they eventually did. But I was working in supply chain. So it was like, that's not going to help me get the job. So I made a video, and people can see the video too. Back when I got the job for Rebel HQ, I had an announcement video, and I actually added in my audition video that I sent to them originally. It took them a long time, though, because I was worried that I just got lost in the noise, that they didn't pay attention. Maybe they couldn't even hire a Canadian. I don't know. Because I had the video unlisted on my channel as a way to send the file to them. And there were no views on it. And after a month, I kind of gave up that they were going to find my stuff in the mix of everything else. And then the following year, like in February or something, they reached out to me and said, yeah, we're interested.
Wow.
And to send in like a more official audition video. And then I did that, and they're like, okay, well, maybe make these changes A, B, C, and D. And I sent in a second audition video that showed improvement from the first one, and kind of went from there.
And then the rest was history.
And that was the best month of my life.
Yeah.
Not joking.
Yeah.
I've had a really sad life, but that was the best month of my life when I got that job.
Can I tell?
Then my first video got over 200,000 views, which was just put me over the moon.
Wow. If I may tell you, while we're on the subject, like ending subject of TYT and whatnot, I can reveal that about, say, 3 years ago during the pandemic, I attempted to intern I had this thing that, since we were all like kind of virtual and working from home at the time, that I could intern, but I could do it virtually. And I reached out to, I think it was like the TYT help email, expressing my interest that I wanted to intern for them. I was in like my middle semester of college at this point. I was studying and majoring in journalism, and I reached out to this person on the help email, said I'm interested in interning, and they got back to me. They sent me a link. I sent in like a resume. I think I sent in a cover letter. I sent in a few, I think, some posts that I had made to kind of show what material that I was planning on doing, like as kind of a basis to kind of express my interest in interning as sort of like a writer, or as like an on-air, like as you said, like a contributor. And then I sent in and this is really weird, I wouldn't, suggest doing this, but I actually sent in that same stuff, the same as like a package, to one of their addresses that I found online. Uh, Never heard back. I never heard back in any way. So I probably like got lost in the noise. So yeah, that was just the story that I had to tell about me attempting to apply for
No,
internship.
like I said, breaking through the noise and actually getting onto that network was a dream come true.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people really understand how profound of a moment that was for me. And so that's why when I speak out against them, I know I'm blowing any chance that I have of getting back on that network.
Right.
But
Right.
I can't stay quiet about
Exactly.
what they're doing. And like a month into my job there is when I called out Jank and Anna the first time.
And that's when you went on the conversation, right? That interview that Jank did with you, and like you called him out, and he was taken aback. Like,
I told
yeah, I
him
remember
to
that.
his face that he was losing his LGBTQ plus audience. That's me working at a company for a month, and it's like, yeah, I'm going to call out the CEO.
Yep.
That's the autist in me, I think.
Yeah. Was there any? I guess I would say, like, was there any pushback from anybody at TYT, or was it more just like no one really cared?
No one really cared.
Wow. I mean that's the actually, I wanted to bring this up in the chat. Adrian mentioned our fellow former mod, Bitingale, applied, and she told this story to me privately and in our panel chat with Letterhack, that she or Bitingale applied for a job with Rebel HQ. She applied for the Twitch pitch, which Benny and Ravana were selected, and she did not get either one, which was a shock to me. I'm like, I could, the Twitch pitch obviously was like a contest of sorts, but to not get a Rebel HQ job where you could use that platform like you do with, using her voice to, express unity and support for the trans community. I mean, TY, again, gonna try to put a period on this subject after this, but like, absolutely. I should also throw this up there. Community liaison as well. So, yes, thank you, Adrian. Thank you so much for remembering that. I forget what I was going to say now. Is that TYT like calls themselves homo progressives, and yet I feel like it's just all for show. Like they're using their, because like you look at the commercials.
Yeah, he's a capitalist.
You look at the commercials, exactly, and you see all the crap they're pushing with, like, saying they're for free and fair elections, they're for getting money out of politics, they're for equality for all, which is like super ironic at this point. And it's just like, it's all for for show, I'm gonna try to watch these 4-letter words here. Even though it's my show and I can
Show.
swear.
SHOW.
Yeah, even though it's my
Show.
podcast, my YouTube channel, I can swear, but it's like it's all for show. It's all for just to gain potential voters. At this point, like they're all coming from the right. If it's coming from the left, putting that in quotation, it's coming from the center.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that all of us, doing what we did as far as the mods and as far as you and Benny leaving. And also I should throw in like Ben Dixon and Mike Figueredo, because I know he was a affiliate with them and he left them, and I think Ben Dixon, like, he left at some point, but he also expressed solidarity with the mods on his morning show a few weeks ago. It's just this, again, this, like, as we were saying in the beginning, like this unity of leftist support within our communities, that we know the right, we know what the right thing is, we know common sense, and if you are common sense, you know what the right thing is to do. And it was hard to walk away, but I can tell you right now, Sandee, that I haven't any regrets. I made the right decision. I stood in solidarity and unity with my fellow former mods, and to an extent, the former TYT group, the former TYT contributors that left, in solidarity with the community that that wants to stand on the right side of issues.
Yeah.
And so I guess I want to wrap it up by asking you this one final question. Well, I have two final questions.
Ottawa is the capital of Canada.
Ottawa is the capital of Canada.
Yeah, you were going to ask me what the capital of Canada was.
Well, that makes three. So here's the last two. So you are a person who is autistic. I'm a person who is autistic. Adrian in my chat is a person who is autistic. There's a lot. I mean, I've actually had to look back into my life and know that I've experienced what is known as ableism, discrimination against people with disabilities. It comes in all forms. It comes in all shapes. It comes in all, ways and means and society. It's like I didn't know there was a term for it until a year ago. So, as a fellow person with autism, I'm just going to read you my question that I have written down. Are you concerned for the left as a general, as a community, as being able to understand what it is like to be autistic in a society filled with discrimination? And I know that's a lot. That's a question to take in, because Adrian and I, again in my chat, we kind of had a conversation a year and a half ago about how even the most ardent leftist people, they could have blind spots. They can express solidarity and still have a bit of prejudice. And so I guess the question is, the question I'm framing is, are you concerned as a person who is autistic that being part of the left, it's harder for them to understand, to get them to understand what it's like being in our shoes as an
Would it be
autistic
any
person.
easier on the right?
Oh,
Like, it's. I don't think it's being on the left or a right issue. It's just a general issue of can people understand?
mhm.
And I think it's difficult for a lot of people to understand people who are autistic because we're still learning.
Yeah.
And it doesn't express itself the same in one person from another. Because I got a job temporarily, and like the nephew or something who is in his 30s would come in, and he was severely autistic, like functioning at the level of a 5-year-old or something like that. And so then when I tried to explain I'm also autistic, it's like, no, you're not. Because I wasn't that kind of autistic.
Yeah.
So, and part of the reason why I didn't even clue into being autistic for so long was because of the examples I had seen of what people called autistic. And I think it's just, I think there's a lot more people who are neurodivergent out there than people realize
Mhm.
that have been misdiagnosed as different things or just brushed aside. It's a matter of when they learn that we're not burdens, we're benefits.
Mhm.
People with different backgrounds, people with the ability to think differently, who can think outside the box, huh? Yeah, outside the box, but to the left of it.
Yeah.
Um, that we can sometimes see things that they can't. And it's an effort that we all have to work together. Yeah. Hold hands and work together. It's easier said than done.
Yeah, it is.
But there's always going to be, much in the same way that racism is built into the system, transphobia, queerphobia is built into the system, ableism is built into the system. So everyone is a little bit ableist, including somebody like me. And it's just, it's trying to push back against those broader societal issues and the way that people see us. And like even the fact that, the way the government treats us isn't like people, it's like children. Like we're wards of the government or something of that sort. That we can't make decisions for ourselves and all that sort of stuff. It's trying to educate people what reality is. A lot of autistic people function just fine. I'd function better if I didn't have to deal with most people, but
Yeah, the same.
but we're in a society where you're forced to, for the capitalist gains and stuff like that. You must go into a workplace. It must be in the office. You must go to these conferences. You must go to these meetings. You must do this. You must perform in this exact way or else. It's all ableism built into the system.
Yeah. And we're a long ways away, unfortunately, of correcting it.
Mm-hmm. I think it's just time and exposure. Uh, I'd say it would be like when we get more neurodivergent leaders out there. But in all honesty, I don't think there's too many neurodivergent people at the top because we have issues with not going along with the status quo.
Yeah. So
We
I
tend to
guess
call out the authority and stuff of that sort. I don't see too many neurodivergent people playing ball enough to actually get up into the highest positions of power.
yeah, yeah. So I guess the next to last question, like kind of following into that, would be like, what can, say, Canada do in terms of changing its perception on folks who discriminate against folks who are disabled or who are queer or non-binary, transgender, those kind of things. Like, what do you think? I mean, we don't have to like think of it in like a political sense, because we know how we just talked about how the government system is corrupt, and how, Trudeau is a, you know. Um, but I guess in a societal way, and we've come a long way since, forever. That I guess what can like Canada do, as I say, in terms of like changing its societal perception on discrimination as a whole, you think?
Well, they can start by stop treating us like burdens.
That's a good point.
Because that's the way that they view people with disabilities. They're burdens.
Yeah, it's the same way here
Maybe,
in the States.
yeah, maybe look into that whole medical assistance in dying situation and think to themselves, you know what, maybe they have a point here that we should provide them housing before MAID. I think my government is doing a semi-decent job, trying to combat queer phobia, transphobia, not as much. Because Justin Trudeau, again, he's very good at performative politics, and he has said some very good performative words. He needs to follow through with policy, but he's at least pushed back against, one of the provincial governments when they were trying to impose that the schools have to or aren't allowed to acknowledge the student's gender identity if the parents don't know. Like, not even in an unofficial way. They're not allowed to acknowledge it at all. So Justin at least pushed back on that. One of my biggest frustrations about Canada right now is that it would be so easy to change.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not that hard. We're already mostly there. It would be so easy to become this more progressive socialist utopia that people seem to think we are.
Yeah.
It's, they don't make it possible for somebody like me to run in politics. Like, being able to be a candidate requires you have money, requires that, most people with disabilities, unless they have some massive supports behind them, they can't run for office.
Mm-hmm.
The barriers to become a candidate are just so high.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people realize you can't, like, most of the people, if we go down to the municipal, where you take the party politics out of it for the most part, you have to have money in order to be able to run. You have to be, have your own business or a spouse that's supporting you, in order to afford to be able to run as a ward councillor.
Mm-hmm.
Or mayor or something of that sort. And that's by design. They don't, the government doesn't want the system to change. The people need to make it happen. I don't know how that's going to happen. I'd be happy getting rid of the queen, like, not literally, even though, she's dead. So getting rid of the whole monarchy. I don't want the monarchy.
Same.
It's horrid.
I mean, the fact that what was going on behind closed doors for centuries,
Mm-hmm.
and who they were affiliated with, is just so disgusting and sickening that it's not even right to even talk about at this point. But it's like the stuff that they tried to hide and now came out to the forefront is just so just disgraceful. It's just like, it makes your stomach churn, really.
Yeah. If I could, I'd be dictator of Canada. Just make it all good.
Sandee Lovas.
Benevolent dictator.
Sandee Lovas, the benevolent dictator
The
of
socialist
Canada.
dictator.
Socialist dictator.
Yeah.
So,
I'd be dictator long enough to make communism happen and then step down.
that would be awesome. Just pointing it out there. So, I also, like, just real quickly, you Were you at a few Majority Report events? I think you were at them. You mentioned.
I went to the Boston Live show last year.
Oh, how was that?
It was a lot of fun. My first time in the States, and God knows how long. I had to get a passport because I didn't even have a passport. But yeah, and since my country is a touch more progressive, I got my passport. It has gender X on it, which I'm happy about. I have my license changed to that too now. Going all out non-binary, which wasn't a problem. I have a joke about it though because I had to rush all of it because I was doing this all last minute. But I needed a new birth certificate because the one that I had was too damaged to use as verification. So I had to do the paperwork to get a new birth certificate. But I was born in Alberta, which is on the other side of the country. And so to do the paperwork and mail it and all that sort of stuff. And then it's like, well, I might as well get the gender changed on my birth certificate while I'm at it. So the gender on my birth certificate is also X, which is awesome. But then the paperwork for both the new birth certificate and the gender marker change had to go to 2 different offices and all this sort of stuff. So I actually have an IM that I sent into the show just saying it's like, because they had to move the show last minute because of COVID. And I sent in an IM saying, I appreciate them doing that, keeping the safety of their fans in mind, even though I'm now out like $100 rushing my passport. But they can make it up to me by making sure there's a Majority Report toucan scarf there for me to buy. And I knew exactly Sam would not know how to say toucan. Yeah, I was surprised he didn't know what it was, but I wasn't surprised that he wouldn't because of how it's spelt. It's spelled weird.
Yeah, I do not have a toque. I haven't any Majority Report merch at the moment, but hopefully that will change.
So yeah, his sister actually reached out to me on Twitter to make sure that it got arranged, and so I have a Majority Report scarf and toque.
So speaking of Canada, Letterhack asked me this question in chat. I wanted to get back to it. He said, well, which Degrassi? The original was amazing. Well, technically, I'm talking about all of them, but the original, which was Degrassi Junior High and Degrassi High, I do agree that was amazing. But for those of us, for myself, like who grew up with Degrassi: The Next Generation, because it's on all the free streaming platforms, yeah, they're all amazing. So hope that answers your question.
Maybe I should watch it, but I'm not. I feel like I'm too old to watch a TV show about high school.
No, the kids that did Next Generation are all in their 30s now, so it's like they had their 20th anniversary, like 2001, so 2021. But it's it's all like nostalgia driven. It's like chocolate, eating your favorite chocolate cake. Left leaning Lindsay, hey Sandy, hey John, good to see here in the. There we go. It says hi, hey Linz. Sorry, I hope I said that right in Canadian. Sorry, that's another Degrassi. Sorry. We're actually ending, so unfortunately, kind of came in late. It's all right. You can once I finish editing this, you can go back and watch the whole entire conversation because we went 2 hours. Which I normally do. If I go more than an hour, then I know that that I've done a good interview, and I'm really happy that I deviated from my original questions. Like I got most of them answered, but I'm glad that we kind of started off with, just like building something like ad-libbing as opposed to sticking to the script, because I do tend to ad-lib. I'm sorry, Linz. She says, just had a bad storm here. 20 days ago. Oh, I'm very sorry, Linz. Hope everything's good.
Yeah. Hope everyone's safe.
Yeah, please be safe. Please be safe, my friend. So, yeah, it's that. That wraps it up. I'm loving my ending here.
As my screens went black, I have to remember to move my mouse.
Yeah, that's what goes on. That's what happened. It happened twice, and it's probably going to happen here shortly. So I guess thank you, Sandee, first of all, for agreeing to do this interview. I was so psyched. Um, I just started watching your channel. Again, thanks for the follows on social media. Thanks for the support you do with all of us on TYT with hashtag TYT Mods Quit. Um, I love the Cedar interview that you did. So I guess the last thing would just be plug away, plug your content.
Well, I have my YouTube channel, Left of the Box. I will eventually be starting live streams. I need to get a second camera.
Yeah, that's the same with me.
Yeah, so that I can actually have interviews, because I'd probably do much better if I could have somebody that I can bring onto the channel with me, as opposed to just. I just released a video yesterday about a cop that was shot in the line of duty. It's a dog. With very inappropriate humor. Go check it out. Tomorrow night I have a premiere that will be showing, and it's about me learning if I can still paint. I can still draw. I learned that thanks to Letter Hack, and so people will get to find out if I know how to paint. It's almost 2 hours long, so it starts at 7 Eastern time tomorrow.
That would be 6 Central.
But I end up talking. I just end up talking a lot in it about overcoming doubts and fears in life and other things that just kind of came to my head as I was painting. So it's not just about painting, but it has a lot to do with it. I have a website. Please check it out, sandeelovas.com. I'm trying to get my art career up and going. The contact box probably still does not work, so just use the email that you see there, which is sandeelovas@gmail. Unfortunately, I'm not set up that people can just click on things and put it in a cart. You actually have to contact me, because I get them printed on demand type thing from an actual. It's professional grade prints. Yeah. And portraits are available. I'm working on one right now for my mom. And yeah, you can follow me on social medias, either as Left of the Box or Sandee Lovas. I plug different ones. It's so hard to tell people which ones to follow me on, because they're changing. I'm not on Threads yet. I eventually will be, and I don't know if I will be on there as Sandee Lovas or as Left of the Box.
I'm on Threads. I'm not really. I'm still I've gotten used to using Blue Sky, but I joined Threads literally the day after I got my Blue Sky code and joined that, so I'm still kind of learning.
Yeah, I'm on Blue Sky as Sandee Lovas. It's the same setup on Twitter, where my handle is Sandee Lovas, but the screen name is Left of the Box. Mm-hmm. I have 2 Instagram accounts. One is Left of the Box, one is Sandee Lovas, one is for my art, one is for my YouTube channel. I'm still calling it Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. I'm holding out hope that this is all some sort of sick, twisted joke, and that we get our Twitter, at least the logo, back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, legally, it still is called Twitter. That X is just, I don't know what his obsession with the letter X is. Yeah. I mean, what is he, Sesame Street or something?
Let's take over a company and then get rid of the most recognizable brand name.
Yeah. I mean, I think watching the interview that you did with Cedar, where he actually kind of expressed a little bit of doubt, because you did that after Elon was officially announced as the CEO, after he officially acquired.
And I pushed back against Sam. First chance I get, it's like, here's my conflict with you. You brushed off Twitter. But to me, it's a big deal. I actually have a Rebel HQ video about that too. Back when there was the first threat of him buying it, I made a Rebel HQ video about it.
Just as curiosity, are your Rebel HQ videos still up and running, even though you're no longer?
No, they're still making money for me.
Oh, wow.
I have it linked on my YouTube page to. They have a playlist of all my videos. I think it's missing one by accident, probably.
And it's
So you can go
YouTube.
back and check out my Rebel HQ videos. Not to toot my own horn, they were better than a lot of what I saw on that channel.
Well,
My
I mean,
humor was good. My takes were good. My quality was good. I just didn't pick up for reasons.
well, you had the sort of, the assistants from TYT doing a lot of the work
Mhm.
versus on your main channel, it's just you.
No, everyone, go watch the Ben Shapiro Space Lesbian Rebel HQ video that I made.
That's awesome.
That's one thing that I will always give credit to is they did not censor me. I had to censor certain words, of course, but considering what I was allowed to get away with in that video.
Sandee, I can't thank you enough again for doing this.
Mhm.
I hope we could do this. We could do a follow up at some
Yeah,
point.
sure.
I'd love
Maybe
to.
once I have the live streams up and going on my channel.
Yeah, yeah. Like I'm still trying to get like monetization 2 years later. So
Mhm. I
and
just
speaking
realized I
of,
could. So I am now officially monetized. So when you're watching the premiere tomorrow, I can get super chat that I will respond to in chat.
I still need to get in MCN as well, but hopefully I have somebody in mind for that. Um, Also, happy belated 2 year anniversary to your channel.
Thank you.
Same, likewise. I'm 2 years. I will be.
I'm actually
3
getting
weeks from
close to
now.
3 years.
I know it's
I'm
very
closer to 3 years than I am 2 years.
yes, us small lefty content creators.
Yep.
Sandee, I hope your rest of your evening goes well. Thank you so much for doing this.
Mhm.
I hope to see you again, and have a good rest of your evening.
You too. Bye, everyone.
Bye. All right, that was Sandee Lovas, Left with the Box on YouTube. Again, you could follow her on all the social media. I will have her content. Uh, Lost my train of thought again. I will have her content linked in the final video when this is released. And as always, let me end here. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to Island Cat. Thanks to Adrian Vixen. Thanks to John G. Thanks to, make sure I don't miss anybody. Thanks to, I want to make sure I get everybody. Thanks to the Letter Hack. Thanks to, let's see who else. Chrysanthemum, I saw you in the chat there. Just throw you up there. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks to Tails and Wings. I think Adrian threw up a comment about what you were. I think you're also an artist. You're a draw. You draw. You do art. So thanks for stopping by. Thanks to everybody who dropped by. You can follow me as always on. Let's see here. Lindsay, yeah, I think I mentioned Lindsay. Thanks to Left Leaning Lindsay for dropping by. Like and subscribe as always. Let me do this. Come on. Well, it's not going to show. I don't know why it's not showing. For some reason, well, it's not showing. For some strange reason, it's not showing. So yeah, catch the show Saturday, Sunday on Twitch, 10 a.m. to 6 when I do a gaming stream. You can follow me on all the social medias, including Blue Sky, which is not on there yet. Donate to Patreon, which I need to get up and running again. And of course, hit the like and subscribe on Twitch and YouTube. And with that, where's my outro? My outro music? No, not that. Not that. Not that. Come on. I should be good at this. I should be good at this. Hold on. Let me try to find it. There's something here that I'm missing, and that is, well, For some reason, it's not showing. I do not know why. I do not know why it is not showing. I had a whole thing. Here it is. Um, so with that, I hope to see you on Saturday when I do my gaming stream on Twitch. Going to finish Earthbound as the OBS on Twitch inadvertently says I'm not playing OBS or not playing Earthbound. Probably going to finally do some Super Mario Odyssey because I finally moved on to the next level, and I'm so happy about that. So with that, I will see you on Saturday, hopefully 10 a.m. Central Time, if I don't sleep in too late. With that, peace.